It's time for Operation Freedom with your host, Dr. Dave Janda, on Southeast Michigan's conservative powerhouse, Wham Talk 1600.
Welcome back to Operation Freedom, folks. I'm Dr. Dave Janda. We're here at Wham Talk 1600 every Sunday from 3 to 5. Again, you're going to want to download this next segment. You're going to want to take this and you're going to want to network it to every person you know. And in fact, why don't you send it to every member of the House and Senate, both in the state and the feds, to just let them know how wise you are to what's really going on. You know, on this show, we've outlined how ground zero of the worldwide fight for freedom against the global elite is occurring in little old Michigan. That's right here. And folks that are outside the state or outside our country, because we have huge listenership around the country and around the world, this is the model they're going to use to come after you. That's right. This isn't just about a bridge, or this is not about Michigan. This is about your freedom, because they're going to use this model to jam this down your throat as well. You see, the global elite, through their UN directive, Agenda 21, which is all about taking away your property rights. That's what it comes down to. With the help of their global elite stooge here in Michigan, Governor DRIC Jennifer Schneider, and his judicial henchman, Prentice Edwards. You know, I'm thinking maybe we should call this guy Judge Prentice, kind of like Judge Judy, because let's face it, the courtrooms they run, from what I've seen, I mean, I'm just a neophyte, but what I see, I mean, it's like watching television, the judicial show. I mean, so Judge Prentice, but actually it's kind of a slap against Judge Judy saying that, because I think she runs a cleaner courtroom than he does, frankly. But what they're about, they're attempting to strip freedom and liberty and private property from a successful businessman, family, and company. That's what it comes down to, folks. You know, Matty Maroon, the Maroon family, and the Detroit International Bridge Company, run by Dan Stamper, are fighting the fight for freedom for you. For you. Because this model that they're trying to jam down their throats is the model they're going to try to jam down your throat. Yeah. And here's the bottom line. If the bridge company loses to the global elite criminals, and I mean criminals, every American, our country, our Constitution, all lose what freedoms and liberties we have left. We are very fortunate to have with us Dan Stamper, the CEO of Detroit International Bridge Company. Dan, welcome back to Operation Freedom.
Glad to be here, David.
So, Dan, when you were last with our show on October 23rd of last year, you outlined what the problems were that you were facing in trying to build the second span of the Ambassador Bridge, which, by the way, folks, is the most efficient, the most cost-effective, and the safest border crossing in the world. You know, there's been pun intended, I guess, there's been a lot of water under that bridge since we spoke. And a fair amount of that water has been turbulent water. And at the center of this turbulence that all of us see in, well, not so much in the papers, because the papers really have been the prostitutes of the governed. But at the center of the turbulence is the Gateway Project. So I believe that this project, in what I've seen, has been misrepresented by the Governor DRIC Jennifer Schneider, Judge Prentice, the Michigan Department of Transportation, and the Detroit media, otherwise known as the Governor's prostitutes. So let's set the record straight, you know, for our listeners. Let's get the information on the table so they can decide here. What is the Gateway Project, Dan?
The Gateway Project is a project that started in the mid-'90s to connect the Ambassador Bridge to the freeway system. The Ambassador Bridge was the only major border crossing that did not have direct connections to one of the freeway systems in the U.S. and in Canada. As you're aware, and as probably some of your listeners are aware, this is no longer a gateway contract argument or even a second bridge argument. It's become an argument of freedom and democracy and abuse of power is what it's become. Mm-hmm. And when we talk about freedom, we're actually talking about freedom. As you're aware and has been reported in the paper, both myself and one of our directors and owners was put in jail not long ago. The facts that are really appalling in this is the first time that I was jailed for a few hours was for not constructing. And
when was that, Dan?
And that was in January, I think, of 2010. And at the time, we were in court saying, Judge Prentice, please demand that MDOT open the ramps so we can construct. If that doesn't happen, international traffic's going to be delayed, backed up, serious safety issues are going to happen. The judge put me in a lockup for a few hours until we started constructing. And when we did, a few days later, because of the backups, an accident happened. 2 people died on the freeway. A van ran into the back of a stopped truck. So I'm saying to you that right after that, MDOT opened up one of the lanes on the service drive. They admitted that demands that we were making was right. They admitted this was their fault.
So as part of this Gateway project, you had already built these ramps. They were ready to be used, but Michigan Department of Transportation had them blocked.
And still has them blocked.
Right. But correct. And then, even though you had spent the money, built the ramps, MDOT had blocked them. And in the process of MDOT blocking them, even though you had done your part of the agreement, 2 innocent people died.
My view, and I think everybody who's been involved shares this, is because the judge would not order MDOT to open the ramps prior to our constructing the last piece of the gateway. We demanded that be done or traffic would be backed up, and it ends up backed up on the freeway, creates an unsafe situation. It did, and 2 people died. The second time they put Mandy Maroon and I in jail was for not completing the gateway. 2 days later, because of the ads we're running, MDOT again admits it's their fault. The gateway's not done. The piece that isn't done is a ramp they're responsible for. So both times that I've been jailed and now that Maddie's been jailed, within a few days, MDOT admits the problems are created by MDOT.
So when I read the Gateway Project documents, in the media, it was like, well, the state had the power over your company to oversee this Gateway project. When I read those documents, and tell me if I'm wrong, it was almost a mutually shared agreement. It was not one was subservient to the other, the bridge company versus MDOT or the state. Am I wrong?
No, you're absolutely right. And it was divided up so a portion of it was being built by MDOT on government property, and a portion was being built by our company on our own property and our own design, our own money, our own risk. In fact, we agreed to donate about $10 million worth of property to the state for their portion of what they had to do, and we did do that.
And when I read those documents, it gave me the indication that as you're part of the project, you were to build ramps, and my understanding is you did build those ramps, and in fact, some of those ramps have been used for several years, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. It was also my understanding that you were to move some fueling stations and some duty-free stores, and it was my understanding that you've done that. Am I wrong?
No, you're absolutely. We didn't think that that was appropriate, nor covered in agreements, but we did it, and that's been done for some time now.
And in fact, there are more ramps that you have built that are been ready to open for a long period of time, but when I was going down to the car show, there were all these barriers across them. Those were not your barriers, but those were MDOT's barriers.
Absolutely right.
So there are ramps that currently are being used that you built that are being used, but there are also ramps that you've built that have been ready to be used for a long period of time that aren't being used because MDOT put barriers across them.
Right, and some of those are ramps that MDOT built with taxpayers' money and paid a bonus to get them done early, and they've been done since sometime around May 2009.
And the reason why those barriers are there, the only way, tell me if I'm wrong, but it looks like they're just trying to force public opinion against you to say, oh, look how traffic's backed up. It's the bridge company's fault as opposed to what the facts truly are, that it's MDOT blocking those ramps from being used.
But for the advertisements that we've done,
yeah,
the world believes that. And the advertisement that we've done is raising those issues with the public, and that's why MDOT has had to admit that the part of the gateway that is not done is their responsibility.
And in fact, they cite that there was a portion of the ramps that is not completed, and it was my understanding in looking at these documents that was really MDOT that hadn't completed the ramps yet. The newspapers, the prostitutes, the Nerd, and MDOT essentially made the public believe that it was the bridge company that hadn't completed the ramps. But it's really MDOT that hasn't completed.
It's MDOT that did not do their work and has not finished the gateway. And our company was fined, and I personally and Maddie was put into jail. And within a few days, MDOT admits the failure on the gateway project being done is their responsibility. This is an abuse of power issue.
Oh, absolutely, at a minimum. And here's the other thing, Dan. Then the media, the prostitutes, the Detroit, let's call them out. The Detroit News and Detroit Free Press. Shame on you. Shame on you. You know, you should take, it's too bad. You know what? This is like 1933 in Germany with you guys. I mean, let's not let the facts get in the way. Let's just use the press to hammer innocent people. I mean, Goebbels would be proud of you, Detroit News and Free Press, because what I saw this week is that you put out these articles saying, oh, well, the federal government just approved MDOT to finish these ramps just the other day. Trying to cover it. No, why don't we tell the truth, Detroit News, Detroit Free Press, Governor DRIC, Jennifer Schneider, MDOT. Here, why don't we just look at a document, the one that I happen to have in my hand. And here's what it says. This is dated March 23rd, 2007. Tell me if this is a fraudulent document, Dan. MDOT, this is direct from the document, quote, MDOT certified to the Federal Highway Commission as follows. This certifies that MDOT has legal and physical possession of all right-of-way required for construction of this project, end quote. That was in March 23rd, 2007. MDOT got the clearance, and they have the audacity, and the Detroit News and the Detroit Free Press misrepresents this to the public by saying that, they just got it in January 2011.
And let me say that those news media that you're talking about have copies of that document also. And I think that, government walks in the door with a white hat. But after you start peeling the onion, you find out that the government's stories of where we are and what this case is about is not the way it's been reported. And I think these advertisements that we have going are helping people understand that.
Okay, folks, now you got to sit down, because the whoosh you hear is blood about to shoot out of my eyeballs. Okay, this is from an article from the Toll Road News. Frankly, when I saw Toll Road News, I thought, here's an organization that's going to be bought and paid for by the MDOT, the big government folks. I have to say, these guys play it down the middle when I'm reading this. But listen to what they wrote this week, and Dan, then you can comment on this. This is what from the Toll Road News, quote, it is one of the most fundamental tenets of English common law and of American justice that the accused, that would be the bridge company, you, Dan, and Maddie Maroon, the owner of the bridge, or the guy whose entity runs the bridge, have the right to know the evidence against them and dispute it, but not in the court being conducted by Judge Prentice Edwards in Wayne County in Detroit. Two Ambassador Bridge men, Maddie Maroon and Dan Stamper, were sent to jail January 12th on the basis of a secret report. Oh, they would be proud of this in Germany in 1933.
Well, it's closer to that than you think. The secret report, the reason we know about it is because we received an invoice from the monitor to pay him to create the secret report and give it to the court. And when we asked for a copy, Judge Prentice Edwards quashed that subpoena and said he's not going to make it available.
So you had to pay for this report. And according to this article, you guys were made to pay $71,403 for this secret report, correct?
Correct.
You never saw it.
Correct.
Michigan Department of Transportation never saw it.
I don't know that.
No, they say that in this article. They said they never saw it. I'm just telling you what they say.
I don't know that.
Yeah, okay. Well, they're saying they didn't. But when the Toll Road News went to Judge Prentice, who makes Judge Judy look really good, folks, Here's what they said. Quote, "This report is for the judge only." No, the report is for the judge, not the journalists, Edwards law clerk told us from Wayne County Courthouse. So they are not public documents, we asked? No, they are only for the judge. Michigan Department of Transportation spokesman said they've never seen the scales report. The Detroit Bridge Company people said they've never seen them either, although they've asked for them. They know about them because, as you mentioned, you paid for them. And here's what they say in the Toll Road News. Quote, "This is strikingly similar in vindictive spirit to the practice of communist governments sending the bills for the execution of, quote, counter-revolutionaries, end quote, to their families after the firing squads did their bloody work. 100 bullets at 1 ruble each equals 100 rubles owing the People's Court." I agree with them. That's what this is about.
I'm just glad we don't have the death penalty in Michigan.
Well, hold on. I mean, God knows what the governor, God knows what that guy would do, because that guy's a totalitarian. So here's what they then earlier this week, the judge was requested by the Ambassador Bridge folks, you, to see the reports used to jail you and Mr. Maroon. And here's what he said. Oh, well, quote, "This request is, quote, designed to annoy, harass, and intimidate," end quote, the author of the report, Charles Scales. And therefore, the judge quashed the request motion. Now, the monitor himself, Charles Scales, who authored this report, he has not asked for his reports to be kept secret, nor has the Michigan Department of Transportation, according to this article, nor are the insurance companies involved. And no one has argued that they should be kept secret except for the judge themselves, which leads to the question, what's this Judge Prentice Edwards trying to hide?
Well, going back after what we've seen happen in the last few weeks, going back and looking at the history of this case, both times there was a hearing on contempt. It was created by the judge, not by MDOT or by DIBC. The judge instructed MDOT's lawyers to file a motion for contempt, and he would entertain it. And he's done that twice now, that both times there was a contempt hearing. It was based on the judge asking one of the litigants to do that, to file that motion. So you got to ask yourself, the question is, whatever reason this judge is still in this case, whatever reasons he has for the things he's done, it's unusual at best. And you got to look at it that this judge is personally embroiled in this case. And like I said, it's no longer a gateway construction case. It's no longer even a second bridge for Detroit-Windsor. It's now a democracy and abuse of power case in my view.
And as I've brought up on previous shows, to make this even, I think, sicker, is that the governor in November of 2011 appointed Judge Prentice Edwards' son to the bench.
That's a fact.
This would be the same judge who then threw you and Maddie and Maroon in jail without testimony, without documents, without a hearing, based on a secret report that he refuses to let anyone see. Is that correct?
That's correct. And that's very, very troubling.
Well, it's beyond troubling. I grew up in Chicago. My wife is a lawyer. She went to Loyola Law School. I remember in May of 1983 at her graduation, a federal prosecutor by the name of Dan Webb, who was one of the biggest prosecutors in the country, was going after some corruption in Chicago, in particular judicial corruption. And he was their keynote speaker at their graduation. In the audience was one of the head judges in Chicago. And I remember this like it was yesterday. He looked at that judge. He did everything but point his finger at him. He told him that if this type of behavior occurs in the judicial courtroom and outside of the courtroom, where favors would be given for decisions then later rendered, that the judges that were involved in this would not only lose their position on the bench, but they would go to jail. You know, Dan, I think we need Dan Webb here.
Let me say this, Dave. I don't know the reasons this judge has done the things he's done. There's a lot of facts that are now public and raise a lot of questions. I don't have the right answers to them. I just know that 2 times I've been jailed by this judge. Both times MDOT has admitted that the problems he put me in jail and fined my company for were problems that MDOT was responsible for. And the first time around, we're trying to protect the public, the users of the bridge, from an unsafe condition. And the judge says, I don't care.
And 2 people died.
And MDOT said, I don't care. They opened the service drive right after that, admitting that the problem was created exactly the way my testimony expressed it would be. And then the second time around, we get accused of not finishing the gateway, and within a few days, MDOT, through our advertisement and other pressures, had to admit that it was their part of the gateway that is not finished. I don't know what you do about that. I know my future's in the hands of an appeals court in a very limited way coming up, and it may be back in the hands of Judge Edwards after that. But this is no longer a gateway construction disagreement. And I really don't know where it's going to end, and everybody should be as concerned about this process as I am, as my family is, and as our company is.
That's true, and because it's about freedom, Dan. Because if they're going to do this to you folks, they're going to do this to every person in this state, in the country, and in the world. And we just had an interview with Mike Krieger about what these folks are up to. And it's about people stripping people of their freedoms and their liberties. And there's another issue here, and it goes beyond just the Judge Prentice, the Judy wannabe. And that is, it comes down to our governor, too. You see, Dan, I believe the governor couldn't compete with you guys in the legislature. The facts couldn't compete. He lost that. His bridge to disaster, and folks, I encourage you to go to our archives. October 23rd, we talk about the governor's bridge and how it's a bridge to disaster. Not only fiscal insolvency, but a bridge to disaster. The governor, when he couldn't beat you guys in the legislature, when you couldn't beat you guys in the court of public opinion, where 2/3 of this public, minimum, is against this bridge being built by the governor for billions of dollars, when you guys on your own are willing to build it on your own, out of your own pocket, no cost to the taxpayer. He then turned to the judicial system. And, as I said, I grew up in Chicago. The governor of Illinois, the former governor of Illinois, Rod Blagojevich, recently was sent to 13 years in jail for over the phone just kind of intimating that, what can I get if I do this or that? I grew up in Chicago, as I mentioned. This thing stinks. It really stinks, Dan. When he couldn't beat you in the legislature, when they couldn't beat you in the court of public opinion, what do? He turns a judicial henchman on you and the bridge company, because it's hard to compete when you're in jail. And that way the governor can get his bridge. I truly believe, Dan, that you and Maddie Maroon were sent to the gulag on January 12th as political prisoners. And my mom, God rest her soul, was a history teacher. And, she used to say, if you don't remember history, you're going to repeat the past. Well, I pulled some of her notes in preparation for this interview. And I pulled some notes that she had created from January 1925. She talked about Italy and their ruler there. He transferred Italy from being a democracy into being an authoritarian dictatorship. One of his first moves was to take control of the legal system. He did it through the appointment and control of judges. He appointed Alfredo Rocco minister of justice. Rocco became an enthusiastic supporter of the process of strengthening state authority. Rocco was responsible for removing individual freedoms and liberties in Italy between 25 and 1928. The judge's preferred method to deal with political opponents, tell me if this sounds familiar, was to implement confino, which was the internal exile to remote locations or prison of their political opponents. You see, Dan, I believe under the leadership of Governor Rick Jennifer Snyder, with the help of the Jalen judge, Prentice Edwards, Michigan has become Little Italy. It is back to the future. Folks, you need to get on the phone and you need to call your representatives and your senators, and you're going to tell them that this is not going to last, that Michigan is not Italy under Mussolini. And then you need to call the nerd's office and tell the nerd, stop the Mussolini actions. Dan, I thank you for your patriotism. It would have been much easier for you to walk away. The same with the Maroon family. I hope you'll continue to fight, not only for your freedom, but all of our freedoms. Folks, you're listening to Operation Freedom. We're here every Sunday on Wham Talk 1600 from 3 to 5. Folks, you gotta get off a dead center and let them know you're wise to the Mussolini in Lansing.